I never imagined that my son's elementary school graduation would turn into the darkest moment of my life. What started as a joyful celebration ended in fear, betrayal, and a decision that would change everything forever. Sorry. My parents came over to celebrate my son's elementary school graduation. They smiled, hugged him, and handed him a beautifully wrapped box.
"It's for you," my mother said sweetly.
Inside was a large Lego set. My son's eyes lit up with excitement. He hugged the box tightly and thanked them again and again. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Then suddenly, he froze. His smile disappeared. He stared at the Lego set without blinking. "Mommy," he whispered, his voice shaking. "What is this?" Confused, I walked closer. That's when I saw it. Hidden deep inside the Lego box, taped carefully under the cardboard, was something that made my heart stop. My hands started shaking. My chest tightened. I screamed, because it wasn't a toy. It was something dangerous, something intentional, something no child should ever see, let alone receive as a gift. My parents stood there, silent. That silence told me everything. I didn't argue. I didn't cry in front of them. I calmly took my son to his room, locked the door, and hugged him until he stopped shaking. That night, I made a decision. I took action. Over the next 48 hours, I documented everything: photos, videos, receipts, past messages I had ignored for years suddenly made sense. This wasn't an accident. It was planned. I contacted the authorities. I handed over the evidence. And exactly 48 hours later, 911 was at their door. At 3:21 p.m., my parents' front door was knocked down. They looked shocked. They looked scared. But I felt nothing. Because the moment they crossed the line and involved my child, they stopped being my parents.
They became criminals.
And I chose my son every single time. When the police took my parents away, I thought the nightmare was finally over. I was wrong. That night, my son couldn't sleep. He kept waking up crying, asking the same question over and over.
"Mommy, why did Grandma and Grandpa do this?"
I had no answer that wouldn't break his heart. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Family members accused me of overreacting.
Or some said I was lying.
Others begged me to drop the charges. That's when I realized something terrifying. They knew. More people knew than I ever imagined. 2 days later, a detective called me back in. "There's more," he said quietly. They had found similar items. In similar reports, other families, other children. My parents hadn't just crossed a line with my son. They had been crossing it for years. The Lego set was never a gift. It was a message, a test, and my child was not their first target. The guilt crushed me.
I kept thinking, what if I hadn't noticed?
What if my son hadn't spoken up? That night, I sat beside my son's bed and promised him something. "No one will ever hurt you again. I swear." The case went viral. Court dates followed, and every time I saw my parents in that courtroom, they avoided my eyes. Because they knew I had destroyed the lies they had hidden behind for decades. I didn't lose parents that day. I saved my son. And if I had to choose again, I would still make the same call. Every single time I thought the truth was finally out, I was wrong again. 1 week after the arrest, I received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photo.
It was my son.
Taken from across the street. My blood turned cold. On the back, 3 words were written in shaky ink. "You missed one." That's when I realized something horrifying. My parents weren't the masterminds. They were just part of something bigger. The police traced the photo and discovered a private group, hidden behind fake charities and family events. Trusted faces, respected names, people who smiled at children while hiding monsters inside. And somehow, my parents had been protecting them. During the next interrogation, my mother finally broke down. "There are things you don't understand," she cried. They said it was harmless. They said it was tradition. Tradition. That word made me sick. I stood up, looked straight at her, and said the word she never expected to hear. "Well, you lost the right to call yourself my family the moment you touched my child's life." That night, my son asked me something that shattered me. "Mommy, are they coming back?" I pulled him close and whispered, "I know, because this time we're not just surviving. We're ending it." The police reopened multiple cold cases. More doors were knocked on. More arrests followed. But one name kept appearing in every file. A name I recognized. A name I trusted. And when I saw it, I realized the real danger wasn't behind us. It was already inside our lives. I didn't want to believe the name I saw. I read it again and again. My hands were shaking. It was my brother. The same brother who used to babysit my son. The The same brother my parents trusted blindly. The same brother who stood beside me in court, pretending to support me.
The detective watched my face turn pale.
We believe he helped them, he said quietly.
Not just once, for a long time. My world collapsed, every memory replayed in my head.
Every family dinner,
Every smile, every moment I had ignored my instincts. That night, I checked the old Lego box again. Inside, hidden beneath a false cardboard layer, was a tiny symbol scratched into the plastic. The same symbol was found in my brother's apartment. That's when I understood. The Lego set wasn't meant to hurt my son physically. It was meant to mark him. A signal. A way of saying, this child is chosen. I couldn't breathe. I packed our bags that same night. No goodbye messages. No explanations. By morning, my son and I were gone. When the police arrested my brother, he didn't fight. He only looked at me and said something that still haunts me. You should have stayed quiet. Family protects family. I looked him straight in the eyes and replied, a real family protects children. As the cell door closed behind him, I knew one thing for sure. This story wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about justice, and I was ready to see it through. The trial lasted longer than anyone expected. Every day I walked into that courtroom holding my son's hand,
reminding myself why I was doing this.
The evidence was undeniable. The hidden symbols, the photos, the messages recovered from deleted phones. And then came the moment that silenced the entire courtroom. My brother took the stand.
He didn't deny it.
He didn't even try. They told me it was harmless, he said coldly. They said the child would never remember. That's when something inside me broke. I stood up. I wasn't supposed to speak, but I did. My son remembers, I said, my voice shaking. He remembers the fear. He remembers the confusion. And he will remember who protected him. The judge ordered me to sit, but the damage was done. Everyone heard the truth. The jury didn't take long. Guilty. On all charges. Yeah, as the verdict was read, my parents cried. My brother stared at the floor. But I felt something unexpected. Relief. Not happiness. Not revenge. Relief that it was finally over. That night, my son asked me one last question. Mommy, are we safe now? I kissed his forehead and said,
yes, we are.
Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Cameras flashed. Questions were shouted. But I said only one thing. Silence protects abusers. Speaking up saves children. We walked away together. Stronger. Free. Unbroken. And for the first time since that graduation day, I slept without fear. Months had passed since the trial. Life seemed normal. My son laughed again. And we rebuilt our home. I thought the nightmare was truly behind us. But then,
a letter arrived.
No return address, no name. Inside, a single phrase was written on plain paper.
You saw the beginning, not the end.
I froze. My hands trembled. I checked every corner of the house. Every toy. Every package. Nothing. Yet the fear didn't leave. Because the truth had settled in my mind. The network wasn't just my parents or my brother. It was bigger, smarter, hidden in shadows. Watching. Waiting. That night, my son slept soundly. But I couldn't. I realized something crucial. I had protected him from this one attack. But the world was full of threats disguised as smiles, and I made a vow. No matter what, I would always be one step ahead. One small mistake could cost him everything. One small silence could let monsters return. And in the darkest corner of my mind, I knew. This story wasn't over. It had only just begun. Weeks went by. Life seemed calm. My son laughed, played, and even started building Lego sets carefully chosen by me this time. Then one evening, I found something in his old backpack. A tiny, almost invisible mark etched on a Lego piece. The same mark I had seen in my brother's apartment months ago. My heart stopped. I immediately called the detective. He came over quietly. This isn't a coincidence, he whispered. Someone close to your family left it. They're still watching. Fear surged through me. But this time, I wasn't paralyzed. I started tracking every package, every visitor, every message, every smile that seemed too friendly. And then I discovered something chilling, a hidden network of families perfectly normal on the surface, but all connected by these cryptic symbols. The Lego mocks weren't just threats. They were codes. Someone had mocked my son, and others like him. I looked at my son playing unaware and whispered, we're not just surviving anymore. We're hunting, because now I knew the truth. This wasn't just about my family anymore. This was bigger, much bigger, and the next move would determine everything. I thought we had seen it all. That the danger was behind us. I was wrong. One night, while reviewing old evidence with the detective, he paused. "Look at this," he said, showing me a series of emails. Hidden deep in my brother's computer. The sender, someone I trusted completely. Someone I never suspected. It was my childhood best friend. The one who knew every detail of my life, every routine, every family secret. They had orchestrated everything. The Lego set, the marks, my parents, my brother, everything. The realization hit me like a freight train. All this time, the danger wasn't just in my family. It had been hiding in plain sight, in the person I loved and trusted most outside my family. I stared at the photos, the codes, the emails. I felt anger. I felt fear, but above all, I felt determination. This time, I wouldn't just protect my son. I would expose them completely. Because this wasn't just survival anymore. This was war. And I intended to win. The emails, the symbols, the marks, they all led to one thing, my childhood best friend. I couldn't confront them blindly. One wrong move could put my son in danger again. So I planned, carefully, strategically. I created a fake delivery package mimicking the style they had used before. The same Lego-like box, the same hidden markings. Then, with the detective's help, I monitored every move. Hours passed. Then at 2:13 a shadow approached our doorstep. It was them. They reached for the package. Their eyes widened when they realized it was a trap. Cameras everywhere, police quietly surrounding the house, recording everything. I stepped out, holding my son behind me. "You thought I didn't notice," I said calmly. "But you underestimated me. You chose the wrong target this time." They froze. Shock, fear, and disbelief crossed their face. The detective finally stepped in. "You're under arrest. Everything is on tape." As they were handcuffed, I felt a strange mix of relief and adrenaline. My son looked up at me, wide-eyed, and whispered, "Mommy, did we win?" Hugged him tightly. "For now," I whispered. "But this war isn't over." I thought we had finally won. My childhood best friend was arrested. My son was safe, but victory felt hollow. Something inside me whispered that this wasn't truly over.
Then one late night, my phone buzzed.
A video message. No name, no number, just a black screen. And then, the voice.
"Did you really think it was that simple?"
"You caught a pawn, but the king is closer than you think." The video showed a familiar house, our neighborhood. And then, the camera panned slowly. A figure stood in the shadows watching my home, my son. I froze. The detective rushed in as I replayed the video. "This is bigger than we imagined," he said grimly. "Someone powerful is behind all of this." I realized in that moment, the war wasn't just personal. It was much larger. The network was still out there, planning, waiting. I hugged my son tightly. "I won't let anyone touch you again," I whispered. "And this time, we'll finish it, once and for all." Because now I knew the truth. This wasn't just survival. This was a battle of wits, courage, and love. And I was ready to fight. Months passed since the ultimate arrests. Life seemed normal. My son laughed again, went to school, and even rebuilt his Lego collection, carefully monitored this time. I thought the nightmare had ended. But then, a package arrived at my doorstep. No name, no return address, just a small black envelope. Inside, a single card read, "This is only the beginning. We are still watching." I felt a chill run down my spine. I showed it to the detective. He nodded gravely. "This confirms it. There's still a network out there, bigger, smarter, and they've learned from their mistakes."
I looked at my son sleeping peacefully in the next room.
He had no idea, and I intended to keep it that way. But one thing was certain. This story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because evil doesn't disappear.
It just waits.
And I was ready. The months of fear, lies, and betrayal had finally brought me here. The detective had traced the remaining members of the network. The investigation was bigger than anyone had imagined. But this time, I was ready. Courtrooms, raids, and interrogations followed. The hidden masterminds, those who had orchestrated everything behind the scenes, were finally exposed. One by one, they faced justice. Their carefully constructed lives crumbled under evidence. Witness testimony, and the truth I had refused to ignore. I stood outside the courthouse, my son holding my hand. He looked up at me and smiled. "Mommy, are we safe now?" I hugged him tightly.
"Yes, my love. We are free now.
No one can ever touch us again." For the first time, I allowed myself to breathe. The nightmare was over.
I realized something important. It wasn't just about surviving.
It was about protecting, speaking up, and fighting for what mattered most. And I had done it. We had done it. The Lego set that once caused fear was now just a memory, a reminder of strength, courage, and the love that could conquer even the darkest secrets. As I watched my son play, laughter filling the air, I knew one thing for certain. We had survived. We had triumphed. Sometimes, the people we trust the most hide the darkest secrets. But love, courage, and vigilance can protect what matters most. Always stand for your children, because they are your world. Like and subscribe.